Sorry. I think we need to start. Yeah. I hope that except the audience in this hall, we have a lot of participants online, but in any case, another online participants can see the record of this meeting. So, and I hope it will be very useful. And my name is Ramil Kuleev. I am a director of AI Institute of Innopolis University. And today we will talk about generative AI and about impact of generative AI to technological progress and business. And here our participants, I would like to introduce them. And a lot of thanks to each of them for coming here. And some of them are participating not the first time, but so they participate every year in similar meetings in our Kazan Forum. So Ajit Abraham, Vice Chancellor of Binance University. Binance University is part of Times Group, is the largest media and telecommunication company of India with a huge audience, around 1.5 billion people. And so Binance University have influence through Times Group to all of this audience also. And this year we launched joint AI lab with Binance University and hope so it will be a lot of research as basic, as applied research, and some industrial projects also for Times Group. Professor Adil Khan, professor of Innopolis University and also head of machine learning and knowledge representation lab. So he is really guru in machine learning, computer vision, professor that has a lot of papers in the A-Star conference, the top conferences in AI in the world. Bader Rashid, professor, he is lead scientist of Innopolis University. So thank you, Bader, to you also. And also we have online participant, Эдуард Шантаев. Эдуард Шантаев, слышно нас? Добрый день. Да, я думаю, Эдуард присоединится. Эдуард, да, Эдуард.
I hope you can hear us. Hello, dear colleagues. Hello, Eduard. He is the head of Department of Digital Infrastructure, Ministry of Industry and Trade, Russian Federation, also the head of Federal Center of Applied AI Development Center. Later we'll be joined by another participant, one of the heads of INSESCO, the organization which is similar to UNESCO, but in Asian and Middle East countries.
If we are talking about machine learning, artificial intelligence, so there are a lot of things that we use every day. But last years, there is a new changes in this area regarding generative AI. So if machine learning is a technology that use data to train and to build models on the existing data, so generative models, generative AI is technology that allows to generate new data very similar to real data that we have. And here we're talking about text, about music, about video, so about almost all modalities. And I think probably everyone, I think most of all, heard about GPT-4o, Omni model that was announced a few days ago, on Monday, as I remember, this week. And it's also, fantastic results. I think it's not only for entertainment, it's important not only for entertainment, but also for a lot of other things. And important that this model can reason across audio, text, and text, audio, vision, text in the real time. It's really very impressive. But today I would like to discuss not only these entertainment things, but also things that are important for economic, for industry, and at the moment already a lot of applications of this technology in different areas, and it's really transformative technology for different industries and different domains. And to start this discussion, I would like to give the floor to Professor Adil Khan and ask him to tell about this technology and about current trends in generative AI.
Thank you, Ramil. I don't know if it's working.
Yeah.
Okay then. Yes, I will. Of course, my research is into theory and foundations of AI, machine learning. But for this particular session, I'm going to mainly focus on the importance of generative AI and the role it can play in transforming businesses. So I have prepared a couple of slides, and I would like to present my view with respect to them. So if you could please go to the next slide.
Yeah, do you have a clicker?
So in order to understand whether we can call generative AI a transformative technology, we need to first find a good parallel, a thing that we think is transformative. So the first step is to understand how do we define a technology as a transformative technology. Thank you very much. So this is purely my ideas. It's my view of looking at what I call a technology, a transformative technology. So it should be something that changes the way the current system or models are working. It is accessible to anybody out there. It generates impact at all levels, social, economical, and etc. And it allows various other technologies to converge to this single point. Now, if we look around and ask ourselves that is there any technology that we can call a transformative technology, then a good example is that of touch screens. Touch screens have completely changed the way people used to interface with computers. Nowadays, if you take my son or my daughter to a computer, the first thing that they would like to do with it is to interact with it by touching it. So it has completely transformed the way we used to interact with computers. Then look at all kinds of devices that are coming with it. We have expensive devices that have really high top-notch screens in them, and then we have affordable devices. Every device out there, no matter what its use, what the intended use is, who the target audience is, who the target user is, touchscreen is available everywhere. And then it created a push towards creating better interfaces. So if I pick an example of an existing transformative technology, I don't need to go back and say internet or electricity. In fact, touchscreen is an example that is right there in front of us. And the question is that if this is what we call a transformative technology that changed entirely the model through which we interacted with computers, is generative AI a transformative technology? And the answer is indeed yes, it is a transformative technology, because just like touchscreens changed the way we interfaced with computers, generative AI is going to change again the way we interfaced with computers. So it's going to be much more transformative than touchscreens. So it is already transforming businesses in terms of automation and efficiency, able to personalize recommendations for them, create new innovations and development. But if I have to pick a better example to make my point clear, that would be service industry. So a service industry is an industry that doesn't create actual tangible products, but provides services. An example of this is healthcare. We go to hospitals and doctors provide us services. Law firms, where lawyers provide us services. Financial firms, where accountants and tax advisors are there to help us with our tax needs and financial needs. If we look at this industry closely, we find that this industry completely relies on the availability of experts. Hospitals require good doctors. Law firms require good lawyers. So when we look at these experts, they can be viewed as bottleneck. A bottleneck means that the biggest weakness in a system. And these experts are the biggest weakness in service industry because they cannot scale to meet the needs of everyone. They cannot personalize to give personalized recommendations to each and every individual out there. They are limited in numbers. They have other important constraints that limit their potential to benefit the society at large. So service industry relies on experts, which are a bottleneck. And now imagine a world where generative AI can in fact either replace these experts or assist these experts. Now with the help of generative AI, we can then scale these services much faster. We can in fact make them much more affordable. We can make them much more personalized. So if one industry that I believe will transform completely because of generative AI, that would be service industry. But when we look at the industry in general, this is, in fact, from this year, that throughout the world, only 35% of industry is using AI. Now, please keep that in mind. That doesn't mean that these are the industries that are using AI for everything or for most of the things. This is just if a person, a company, or a firm is using AI. That means that if we looked closely into firm that is completely benefiting from AI, this number will grow even smaller. So this is a big issue. The reason being that here we have a technology that can completely transform businesses and industry, but on the other hand, businesses are not benefiting it from a level that they should or they can be benefiting. What is the issue? Of course, there are many technical issues, but if I have to put them aside, I'll say that the issue is understanding how AI can benefit businesses. So if I am running a firm and I've never used AI before, I am now wondering, what should I do? Can AI help me? Is there anything that AI can help me in? Now, if we want AI to reach businesses, we need to go towards what I call AI consultancy. Now, if you search online, look for AI consultancy firms, you will find them popping up everywhere. It is because these people have identified that there is a big gap. We have a potential transformative technology, businesses who can benefit from it, but nobody knows how to actually use it. And now we are going to help you. And I have taken this screenshot from one of the biggest consultancy firms in the world, McKinsey. Look at their model. Their model relies on two things. One, having a good stack of technology that they can use to build AI models for companies. And second, people who can sit with companies and tell them how to benefit from AI. And as I explained earlier, service industry, what is the biggest bottleneck? Experts themselves. And we are talking about AI consultancy, which is a service industry itself, which again relies on experts in AI, which is nothing but a bottleneck. Thus, I'm going to conclude my talk here by just repeating that we have in front of us a completely changing world, a world that has made it possible for AI to do things that we never imagined it could do. With this much power, it can transform businesses, specifically service industry. But what is the biggest problem? That people, firms, companies, businesses, they don't have a clear answer of how this can benefit them. And to bridge the gap, we are again relying on a service that sits on a bottleneck. Therefore, if we want to truly benefit from AI, we need to make sure that AI is first going to transform this AI consultancy-based services, which will then enable everyone to benefit and understand how AI can help them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adil.
You're welcome.
So you said about some constraints and limitations, and you said about importance of people, of consultancy, but what are technical barriers of transformative characteristics of generative AI?
First, generative AI is at the top, at the foundation is nothing but machine learning models, and therefore it shares a lot of limitations like those models do. If I have to pick some, I'll say the first issue is the data itself. Like any other model, like any other technology, we need data, good data, and large amount of it to train such models. Second thing is resources. So if you think of a large language model with billions of parameters in it, even to fine-tune it on your data, you would need a lot of resources for that, both in terms of compute power and people who can in fact do this for you. So like any other model, they share these limitations. But in my view, there are even bigger limitations. And those limitations are understandability of these models, not being able to interpret these models, lack of control in these models, no way to intervene into them. So these are much bigger issues which we didn't face before with earlier machine learning models because their use was not that large scale. Now that we have a technology that has potential to be used at a very large scale, other than those small technical issues like data, resources, and experts, we need to overcome these bigger question marks of how we will be able to explain and understand them, how we will be able to intervene in them, how we can align them with our needs. So I always say, think of a large language model as an undergraduate who has just come out of the university. They have studied 50 different subjects. They know all of that, but they don't know how to actually connect them and provide the right services to you. So when you hire these undergraduate students, you train them, you work with them, you make them a professional. Just like that, we have to work with these models to make them align to our needs. So alignment is one of the biggest issues as well. These are just some technical major problems that I can identify at the moment.
Yeah, thank you, Adil. Thank you. And I would like to continue with more applied things, and I would like to ask to tell more, a little bit more, Эдуард Шантаев. Эдуард Шантаев, слышно нас?
I hope you can hear us. Hello, dear colleagues. I hope you can hear me well. I'll begin. Generative AI systems today provide one revolutionary approach used by industrial enterprises also for modernization, upgrade of own production. We studied a number of foreign analytics. McKinsey is one of the most popular ones. Next slide, please. This says that economic potential of generative AI can provide for growth in production efficiency up to 20%, less the R&D costs, lead to labor efficiency outcomes, yearly 0.5% increase year-on-year, combining with other technologies, providing up to 70% of increased revenues and profits from using generative AI. It's important to note that according to some assessments, increase in labor efficiency and process optimization to 2030, if we talk about general economic effect, can exceed 0.3% of labor growth efficiency and 600 billion rubles. At the Applied Center of AI, we feel that the industrial processes where we successfully use AI include, first of all, the R&D of various types of products, quality control, prevention and maintenance, work process flow optimization, and demand forecasting, market research. Understanding market research, we spoke to Yandex team, one of the largest Russian search engines, asking them to share their analytics and our review, our survey, provided the same data as Yandex's. 20% of industrial enterprises today use generative AI in one way or another. 66% of this work in marketing and sales, 54% is client services, 4.9% is R&D, so 31% is general IT infrastructure of industrial enterprises. We concluded that this corresponds unequivocally to international world trends. Now, dear colleagues, here I would like you to share with you some of the cases which our research is based on. The first case here is related to Gazprom neft, to various lubricants and fuels. They are using a huge research test base and also of applied experimental testing to cut down the time of commissioning. Their new product launches were cut from 6 months to 1 month due to compilation and use of generative AI in the sphere of product recipes and content. Sber devices. Sberbank is another recognized world leader in AI and generative AI development. They use a neural network, which is called GigaChat, to develop various machine learning programs installed on their own devices, on their software and hardware. Now, according to 2023 figures, the efficiency of staff within the framework of using these Sber device solutions has grown by over 20%. Another case is Kapolis Corporation, the largest in Russia reprocessor of electronics, using generative AI from Metamento, our company, which provides for further learning on technological procedures for production lines, improves production efficiency and quality. Next, our center within its operations coordinates generative AI industrial use through, first of all, synchronizing the policy for AI development to 2030. Our key vectors are methodology support of developers to adopt solutions based on generative AI, creating frameworks, libraries, and AI algorithms, creating various test means for applied research, creating our own platform for testing generative AI, laying down the groundwork, the rules, and also improving legislation in the Russian Federation. Dear colleagues, summing up, it could be said that use of generative AI in the industry in the Russian Federation is in the early stages, but we can see huge potential from its application. Today, it's processing of data for business needs. Tomorrow, it will be typical repeatable operations, and the day after tomorrow, it will be using robots. So generative AI needs new engineering jobs, products, R&D, generation, prevention, maintenance. All of this is possible through generative AI. In Russia, to develop generative AI, we need competences, industrial competences, I mean the operations of the actual enterprises, and also work with various gap technologies and R&D. So, summing up, in the industry, consolidating their competences, their skills in terms of advanced technologies is the key industry that uses AI in the Russian Federation is ready to shift to generative models in all of its facilitatory and main processes. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Eduard. I agree with you that it's true if we talk about cases. In addition to widespread cases, such as understanding texts and generating texts, creating new models and new materials. For example, the case which you cited concerning Gazprom, the generation of new lubrication and combustible materials. I think here we have a huge potential for the industry. I have a question to you. if we talk about the same from the applicable point of view, there is some enterprise which wants to develop on the basis of LLM. How can they start the activity? How can they teach LLM? What recommendations can you give as an expert? The Federal Center of Expertise, I think, can give such recommendations. Can you give it as a representative of such center? Thank you very much for your question. It's quite true that there is need to teach LLM model and artificial intelligence, but it costs quite a lot in terms of capacity, work of specialists and data scientists. What we can offer now, we have a number of reliefs and incentives which are spread on finance, which cover financing, scientists and R&D specialists to increase their capabilities. Our federal center also has the Center of Collective Use, which was based on the Center for Developing Artificial Intelligence, and we involve various experts who can help us find solutions how we can apply artificial intelligence. And currently it's for free, so thus our colleagues can address us if their objectives have the direction and the development in the field of technologies and science.
And so, and if we are talking about generative AI, so it's, in my mind, a huge potential in generation of new content. So, and it can be very important for media. And so, Ajit, I would like to ask you, tell more about what do you think about cases possible of using generative AI here in media.
Thank you, Ramil, for that wonderful introduction. So I come from the Times Group. So Times Group is one of the biggest media entertainment industry in India. So we have 30 diversified businesses in the media entertainment business, from newspaper, the largest newspaper in the world in English, Times of India. From there to various magazines, to TV, to radio, to internet, various channels. So we are into various types of media entertainment industry. So Ramil asked me to talk about how we are using generative AI in the industry, and actually we are using it since some time. So AI has been there since a long time. So in the past, AI mainly was used for targeted marketing, segmenting, various things. So AI was there. But the coming of generative AI has changed the pathways in various different formats. So it is all about contents. So you're generating text, generating an image, generating a video, music, all these things together, combining simple prompts, now even with voice, with the new GPT-4o. So you can imagine, sky is the limit. It helps us to understand the contents a bit more deeper. At the same time, it also helps you to reimagine the way you could create things. At the same time, assess in real time how these things are perceived by the viewers. Finally, if you are creating something and if it is not taken seriously by the viewers, it doesn't have any value. In businesses, definitely all these things matters. So from content creation, I would say from text, images, audio, video, and even deepfakes. Creative arts, art, music, literature, that could somehow mimic human-like creativity to some extent. Still a long way to go. Synthetic media is another aspect where sometimes we don't have enough data to train our models. Then we try to generate synthetic data to train models, or even for various educational purposes. So we also have a school of media where we also teach our students from undergraduate to PhD degrees, all these various technologies and challenging aspects from a media perspective. So I would say one of the key, I would say the main point is how generative AI could play a very big role in media is personalization. So by understanding what the viewers need, we can actually engage users and also get better satisfaction. Efficiency, imagine just by a prompt or by a few words, you can create content just like that. So scaling up, so you can produce a lot of things with fewer resources. Similarly, speed, you can also target larger audiences than before with better quality. And with all these generated contents, we can even reinvent the way we do businesses and how to monetize this using generative AI contents. Journalism, how I'll quickly walk through some of the key areas where we use generative AI in various industries, and then I will also give you some, I would say, some challenges what we face. So one is journalism. As we know, automated article writing is very easy using large language models, transformers, etc. We can even personalize such contents. It can help you to draft your contents, your article in the best possible way. Even you can proofread it better than a professor. Summarization of various things. You don't have time, but you want to summarize what is it about. For example, you want to launch a product and you want to create various abstracts, for example, one for Twitter, one for LinkedIn, one for Facebook. You can ask your GPT models to write these abstractions. Image generation, graphic design, just like text, we can also do similar things with images. You can use article illustrations, infographics. You can add titles within images so that it becomes more, like storytelling. Adding animation to various images, for example, like GIFs, image annotations. Film production. This is one area I think where even generative AI is, I would say, not mature enough. We can create contents, but when you look at videos, the content generation, we are not there yet. We are there only up to, I would say, creating very good images. But mapping few slides together, creating that imagination, I think that is something very challenging. So again, it is at infancy, but still I think a lot of work can be done in that direction. Again, automated summaries, character development. All you need is some ideas about a character, fix in a frame, give some ideas, then you have generative AI to take care of it. Dialogue suggestions, computer-generated images, you can enhance the quality of them. Automated video editing, de-aging, you can enhance the quality, color enhancement. Similarly, music. It's another nice area where you can use Gen AI to improve contents, from music composition, production, customized sound design, real-time collaboration, voice cloning. I guess all of us might have seen in deepfakes very nicely. Virtual artists. So marketing and advertising, I guess it has been used extensively using old, I would say, traditional AI, but with the advent of generative AI, I think we can do wonders. For example, we can create dynamic creatives, which are more adaptable according to users' preferences. Predictive analytics, again, based on user preferences, we can do wonders. Testing with AI, A/B testing. So you have two options, which is better for the audience. And many times it is a challenge, even for human eye. Sometimes you feel that both looks alike. but using AI, you can actually make decisions much faster. Similarly, natural language generation using Gen AI and also in various languages. I'm just talking about English, but in various languages you can use Gen AI. Market segmentation, already been done using AI, but again with Gen AI you can do wonders. Behavioral retargeting, predictive lead scoring, conversational marketing. You might have all these things are nowadays typically, if you go to any media website, even on bank websites, you would see all these very interesting chatbots talking to you, taking you to this thing, asking you funny things and getting some feedback. Again, even getting back to you later with some other feedbacks, asking you for more prompts. So these type of things are already ongoing. So far I talked about the good things of generative AI in media. And like any technology, there are also a lot of challenges. So one is lack of control. So like I think Adil mentioned earlier, we don't have any control why this is coming now. The explainability is very poor in the case of generative AI. So even before it was not there, but now it has become much worse. Sometimes you get unintended contents. Imagine someone watching a live show and something comes in between, then it's a shocker. So transparency and explainability is a huge concern. Then intellectual property concerns, because nobody knows what these models are being trained with. So it depends upon what all things are being used. It also gives back. I usually call generative AI as a talking parrot. So the more you give, it just gives you back. Sometimes it also talks something which you don't want the parrot to talk. So in media industry, it is very, very serious, because if the parrot talks something which is not good, then probably that's it. Ethical concerns, like any machine learning model, AI model, algorithmic bias. So typically we try to overcome this using regular audits, various type of audits. Sometimes we get a lot of misinformation and it gets amplified, especially in media industry. Something bad happens, it just spreads like wildfire. So again, in media industry especially, there will be always a human fact-checking, always, before we release something to the public. And one thing, I guess all of you agree, that whatever we see using generative AI, still we miss that human touch and intention. So we humans, we do things with some creativity, some intuition, some meaning. But when you create a lot of plastics together, sometimes you don't feel what it is doing. So it's very important for us to preserve human creativity at the same time. Though we embrace, encourage technology, like I mentioned, it has a lot of potential to have a significant impact, but at the same time, I think we should have a harmonious coexistence. So like I mentioned, we have a lot of businesses. This is Radio Mirchi. So recently, we replaced a human, I guess the radio voice with a generative AI based chat or a voice bot. So it is operational in UAE. So it is able to create RJ level voices. So you can imagine the content. Similarly, we have another interesting creation we call Mirchi Chai. So it's an Instagram. So she has a lot of followers from all over the world. And she is totally artificial. So it's a video actually we created, like the future, how we see the capital of India, Delhi, in few years. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. In this video, you can see that really, even in future, India will be so country with so differences, so with large differentiation in people, in technologies, so, and it's very interesting. But if we are talking about technology, so since such rapid development and growth of this technology, so there are huge risks in deepfakes, in misinformation, and you mentioned it. And how do you think, how we can avoid it? What can we do?
Well, I think it is always a big challenge. First is, if you look at from a pure entertainment point of view, I think some of them are good, but sometimes it invades privacy, sometimes it creates problem for certain segments, and then we need more regulatory mechanisms, I would say, to really stop it from some perspectives. Technology-wise, I guess there are various technologies that could be, like used to control the spread of such misinformation or deepfakes, etc. For example, you can use blockchain method to verify whether, like such a media, like how it is spread, how it is authentic, to what level it has reached, etc. Like any other image, you can use metadata to track what is the current state of this information. You can embed watermarks like other images or other videos, so that you know that it is really from some authentic sources. But these are all, I would say, some injections, like in security, or I would say information security or other fields. We do something and then someone will come with something better next day. So these are all, I would say, something to stop it today, but we don't know what is coming tomorrow. And I think this is a ongoing problem, and it is going to be challenging always, because we are dealing with a diverse world where some part of society is educated, some are not educated, and some don't care. So if you can educate all of them, all of us sing the same song together, then things gets better. But unfortunately, those type of things are not practical. So I think we can do certain things which we can do, but at the same time we have to live with this in the long run. That is my perception. But again, if we impose stricter regulatory measures, I don't know in Russia how these laws work. For example, in India, no one cares. Even tomorrow, I could see something with my own face, and there is no strict regulatory mechanisms to really stop it. I can complain and probably that video is gone, but again, 2 days later, again it can pop up from some other channels.
Yeah, thank you, Ajay. Thank you. And I would like to continue discussion on security, and not only security, but cybersecurity and usage of AI in cybersecurity. And Bader Rashid is expert on this domain. So Bader, floor is yours. So please continue this topic.
Can you hear me? It's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, nice. The clicker. Okay, so thank you, Ramil. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, today I will be talking about a little bit about like not the so bright sides of generative models. Mainly, yeah, so I think that there was a lot of talk about what is good about mainly generative models and the usage of them, the revolution that they lead really in industry and in academia. So we are all aware of the revolution right now. As you can see, it's not only in one domain, but also in the many domains, and also in the multi-modal language models that we have right now, that they can generate not only text, but also images, as you can see here in in the image, also in rather in other like domains like drug discoveries and stuff like that. But today I will be talking about the trustworthiness of generative models. Mainly we will be talking about three aspects, which are adversarial attacks, fairness, and interpretability. Why this is important? So building a truth is essential in any business, and when we are talking about integrating generative models more and more in business, this becomes very crucial. So trustworthy, mainly in any business, it means that we will be better informed about the decision that we are making. If it's the decision comes from a human or from a model, a machine learning model, and the generative models as well. And this means that we can maintain the trust that we have from the customer in business. And of course, that helps business to comply with the laws, with the regulations, if they have from government. And also, like we know that with the more and more deployment of generative models in industry, it means that we will have more regulations about how these models will be used and how we can use these models. And mainly, if we can integrate trustworthy in these models, it means that we can comply with these laws and regulations that we will have them more in the future. So the key aspects of trustworthy are mainly, like we have many of them. We will be talking today about three of them, which are the most popular ones. The first one is security, which is about how we can protect AI models or generative models from different kind of attacks and data breaches. We have fairness, about how we can ensure that generative models will operate without bias or discrimination. It's about interpretability, how we can make these models transparent and understandable. The first one is security. So after having machine learning models, mainly deep learning models, mainly more and more popular, we started to talk about some of the attacks that appear on these models. Mainly adversarial attacks are small manipulations, are small perturbations that could be added to input, and if these inputs could be images, text, or whatever. And then after adding these manipulations, we have the model to behave or misclassify the input in a way that is not different to a human being. So the two samples will look for a human being quite the same, but for a model they will be quite different. And of course, we have this to impact business very hugely. So this will increase the risk of financial and identify fraud. We have misinformation, of course, if we have attacks on the model, which means that this will lead to the spread of false information damaging the public stuff. Of course, like these attacks might appear not only in inference. We might have an inference that we send a sample and we have misclassification, but we have these models to be trained on a large number of data samples from the internet, which means that these samples also themselves might have an attack, which is a poisoning attack that might appear in training phase of the model. We have reputational damage. Of course, like this is very intuitive. If we have an attack that on the model, it means that we are losing the trust from the customer that might use these models. This is a very hot topic in academia and industry. Many approaches are appearing every day about how we can mitigate the effect of these attacks. Mainly, the main two approaches is by retraining when we have a new attack, or by detecting or filtering these samples. But of course, like what we are missing, and it's a future direction for academia, it's about if we can explore models that will be universally defended or robust against any attack that might appear in reference time or in training time. And of course, like in terms of like government or worldwide wise, we need more standards to be developed about the regularization or about the standards about how to ensure that these models are secure. So we have different standards for information technology in general, about how the security might be applied and ensured, but unfortunately until now this does not include the security of generative models and AI in general. The second aspect is fairness. So fairness ensures that the model will be unbiased and equitably have equitably outcomes across different groups, which of course will maintain the ethical standards and social responsibility in business where these models will be applied. Unfortunately, we have many challenges to reduce fairness in models, and these challenges might have bias in the training data itself, because we collect data from one community, and then we try to apply this model in a different community which might not have the same population. That's why this model might have some bias or biased outputs. And of course, we might have underrepresentation in the data set across of certain groups. And the models themselves don't have the same intuition about how they should behave in a fair way as human beings do. And we all know that we follow some ethical standards that we know, but for these models, these standards are not forced when we have the model to be initialized and trained. The impact also is huge on business if we have biased models. First of all, we have non-compliance with the anti-discrimination laws that we have from any government. If we have the model to be less fair against one group, then of course we are losing the trust of this group to use this model. And that's why we need to ensure fairness when we design and apply any generative models. To do that, first of all, we need to increase the diversity of the data set itself, which means that all the groups will have balanced representation in the training data. We need also somehow to introduce and enforce fairness for the model themselves when we design the model to minimize bias. The third aspect is interpretability, and I think that it was mentioned by my colleagues, a very huge issue of machine learning and mainly of generative models, that we need somehow to ensure the models represent output in an understandable way for humans. So we don't need the model only to produce output, but if we say that why you produce this output, we need explanation. We need somehow to this model to behave in an interpretable way. We need if we can understand why the model behaved in a certain way, it means that we can trust the decisions of the model, and vice versa. If we can't understand why the model behaved in certain ways in certain decisions, it means that we can't trust the decision and the outcome of the model. Many challenges, of course. The most common one is that these models behave as a black box. We have large language models. We have the first word is large, so we have models that are very large. That's why we use them and we train them and we inference them as black box. We can't say why these models behave in a certain way, and because of this complexity and nonlinearity in the interaction between components of this model, it means that the output, we can't explain why we have certain output for certain input. And of course, also because they are very complex, we can't trace the decision pathway through this model. The implications also on business are huge. It means that we need somehow to ensure transparent and justifiable business decision. We need also to meet the regulation again. So for all these aspects of trustworthiness, if for each of them, we need to meet regulations that appeared and will appear in the future from government about transparency and accountability. And of course, if we have a model that will give somehow as a justification for answer, it means that we can debug this model, we can identify some edge cases where the model might behave in a certain way, and we can tell why the model misbehave in ways that the human beings will behave in a better way. So as conclusion, we need generative models not only to perform in a good way in the general situations, as we see right now. We need to enforce trustworthiness in these models in different aspects, in security, in fairness, and interpretability. So we need to, for these models to be more responsible for that will make this, the spread of this model even more, because we can get the trust from customers until we can give somehow a certificate, I call it a certificate, that our model will behave in all the cases that will be required by business. We can't ensure this full spread of generative models. And that's why we have our lab in Innopolis University, and like our supervisor, Professor Khan, that we work on not only accurate models, but models that are more trustworthy, that they are robust, fair, and interpretable. And that's why also we encourage business to implement solutions in real world that will be responsible, because they will like comply with the regulations that might appear in the future, and they will ensure that these models will behave in the way that they need. And thank you for attention.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bader. So just a short question. So imagine that I'm a business. So
in business, I see.
Yes, I'm a business. So what measures should I take to be ensured that AI systems are trustworthy? So what should I do?
Yeah, nice question. So what we are lacking so far is a platform that will say that our model is trustworthy. So we still don't have some framework that will say that our model can imply and will be secure against any situation that you might have. And that's why actually also there is no interaction enough between business and academia in terms of this issue. What we are lacking, like for example, that we might have a framework at least similar to the way that we have security departments in banks or whatever business, that will ensure that these models will be up to date in terms of security. Not models, I'm sorry, that their software is secure. Also, we need the models to be secure and up to date. Until we can give somehow that our model will be secure against any case, what we are suggesting that somehow we need to have humans in the loop. We need to have the departments in any business to be ready to face attacks and to face issues that might appear in these models, and how to face them in terms of like up-to-date approaches that appear every day.
Okay, Bader, thank you. So, and I would like to continue our discussion and to talk a little bit more and to ask question to Eduard Шантаев about regulations. Эдуард, вы еще с нами? Надеюсь, еще здесь.
Eduard, are you still with us? Yes, I'm still here. I would like to ask you some question. I think it's quite relevant. So what are the actual legal acts in Russia which are used in business, and how companies can ensure compliance with these legal acts and regulatory requirements? It's a good question. And I can say that there is a certain trick in this question, because currently we're just shaping the regulatory legal field which will control the use of artificial intelligence. And I can say that currently we can pinpoint two fields for its use. One is stimulating, includes different incentives and reliefs which help to introduce artificial intelligence in economical sectors. And the second thing is not direct, doesn't have the direct legal force, but it's accepted at the governmental level how artificial intelligence could be used in general. So it's the strategy of our country for the development of artificial intelligence technologies up to 2030. And I should also underline the work of our colleagues from neighboring industries, the interaction of developers and businesses on the introduction of artificial intelligence and its use. What could be recommended to our colleagues, how they can be on the top of the way of regulation of artificial intelligence suppliers, and how we can modernize our own production. They imply interaction in various social groups and in groups which are involved in the drafting, regulating activities, because those companies who are involved in developing these regulatory requirements become leaders in using them. Yes, these laws are still being shaped, but I think it's a good opportunity for companies to introduce their own solutions. If we compare, for example, Russia with the European Union, where there are quite tough regulations, I can say that we have easier life in Russia. I mean, technological companies. Of course, there will be time when there will be tough regulation in our industry. And I think there was a question from the hall, from the audience.
I would like to ask a question to Bader. Thank you for your speech. And currently there is emerging topic of large language models, already not emerging but quite popular, and there is such a topic as alignment that is related to language model do not create terminators and not going to kill us all. Anyway, and how is the topic of alignment is related to topic of interpretability and trustworthiness? Are they somehow opposing each other or not? Because for the alignment in language models, there is a lot of information, but for trustworthiness and other topics, it's not so, although they are seeming similar. That's it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, it's a very interesting question. I would say that alignment and trustworthiness, of course, they are not perpendicular. So it's in terms of the idea, if we can align models, if we can produce models to align with human beings, it means that most of the problems that we are discussing right now will be solved. But unfortunately, as we all know, we don't have models to be aligned very well until now. I will give more example that also will be more I guess imaginable for us is from computer vision, because we have right now what all researchers and companies try to do is to produce models that will align with the perception of human beings. So we have some kind of components, if we can talk about transformers or whatever, what we all trying to do is to align these models of how human beings might, because of course the models will not behave to look at every pixel individually. And the same for text, we have the models should not look at every word or every token individually as well. And unless we can have this alignment between the model somehow and the behavior of the human beings, I think that we will not be able to solve this issue collectively. But what we all know by now, unfortunately, that we have the models not to be aligned very well. So somehow the research in alignment, so if we talk about neuroscience or whatever, and the research that we are somehow making, I think that they will intersect, and we will somehow produce models that will behave in more adaptable and more generalizable and in better terms of trustworthiness and alignments, of course, with the decisions of human beings.
Yeah, thank you. And one more question that is also related to what Ajit used to talk. Basically, what is the room of like this trustworthiness and other topics of research when we speak of generative models, for example, video generation and so on, because it seems like generative models of those kind, they are not automating anything completely. So there is also a human in the loop. Therefore, do we actually need such kind of research when we speak of generative models, or we could omit it?
Also, thank you for the question. I agree with you that by now, maybe the question is still in terms of, let me, of course, first I want to mention something, that robustness, adversarial attacks, and trustworthiness is not only about the huge risk that we have about the model. Also referring to the first question, when we have these attacks on the model, it means that these models are not aligned with the human beings. And this issue itself is a big issue. So it's the room of improvement here is that it will help us to understand why the model behaves in a certain way in the first place. If we understand somehow why the model produces some results for adversarial samples or whatever, it means that, and if we solve this, it means that maybe the model will be aligned more with the human beings. This is the first thing. The second thing about maybe in industry, by now, we still are not facing a very big issue about generative models. And also I agree with you because by now the models themselves, the generative model, the application of them, as was also mentioned by my colleagues, is very restricted. And we are getting these models to be applied more and more. And what we are proposing here is to not consider only the bright side of these models when applying them, but also to consider the issues that might appear when we are applying these models.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question and for the answer also. So, yeah, and there is another question here, okay?
Thank you, distinguished guest. It was a very enlightening conversation you had. You have covered most of the topics that we talk about AI today. However, I am from Indo-Russian Chamber for Technology Collaboration. So without being invited into this conversation, I would like to add a few facts or development that we have seen currently. So from a point of view of regulation, the Technical Committee 164 of Russian Federation, it is in conversation. Okay.
Yeah, please continue.
Okay.
But please take your microphone closer, probably.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I was saying is the Technical Committee 164 of Russian Federation is in conversation with some agencies in India, which is Telecom Center of Excellence and Bureau of Indian Standards. They are working together to build framework for governance in AI in two areas. One is agriculture and second is healthcare. Now, what they intend to do right now is create a common system of governance and compliance along with creation of test data sets and certification of test data. Now, having said that, let's assume in future this will happen. What we are seeing in general in technology governance is governance and adoption, they don't really go hand in hand. And we see another trend that is coming up, which is private AI, right? So now, anyone can build a rig which can run AI algorithms. And we are seeing increasing adoption of private AI because these algorithms are available in open source. The question is, all these large enterprises which are providing GPT, various versions of GPT, they are not explainable. And that is why we are seeing a trend towards private AI. So question to anyone in the distinguished panel is, what do you see the future of private AI, and if there are standard governance and standard test data available, do you see a market for that, or do you see it is going to be driven by big tech from the West?
Who wants to answer?
I can try.
Yeah.
I can try to answer. I'm mainly a researcher, so I look at these as elements of research for me. But as I said in my talk, that this is indeed a very transformative technology. And if something has that potential, we should not limit it. And I will go to an example of internet for our sake. So for me, I think everything will boil down to the cost of using a certain thing and then managing it. Once we can see that the benefit of using is large scale, long term, and really beneficial, then we can afford the cost that we need to put in towards managing it better. So think of internet, as I was giving an example. Every firm, every industry, all sorts of businesses, no matter who we talk to, is using internet now, because it is definitely an enabling technology. If we had restricted it, right, thinking of how bad it can be, what sort of issues can it produce, and whether it will be too difficult to manage it, if we had restricted it at that time, then we would not have seen the world that we are in today. So it is the same case with AI. My belief is that we need to make AI democratic, in the sense that everyone, private, public, government, everyone should be able to explore and work with it and play with it. The thing is that once we are able to identify how benefit and what large-scale benefit can come out of it, then we would be willing to invest money and resources into building infrastructure that we need to manage it as well. So my colleague over here gave an example of every firm having the security department. Why do we need that department? That means that internet is not secure, even after so much time has passed since its creation. It is still not secure. That means that this is in its nature. It will keep behaving like that. But we will keep on investing money to make it secure, because the benefit of usage is much larger than the money that we invest into managing it. Same thing, I think we need to consider AI in the same context as well. Regulations and all those issues and aspects are indeed very critical, but they need to evolve as AI evolves. And for that, we need to give business an opportunity to identify what large-scale benefit can they gain from employing AI, using AI. And when that exceeds, when the benefit is larger, then continuous efforts can be put from any person on any side in order to understand how to manage and govern it better.
Okay, so rightly said, and that is why, regulation of technology is bad. But take, for example, agriculture. Now, let's assume a future where crop seeding, watering, even pest management, these are automated using AI. And Mr. Bader was saying there could be an adversarial attack that could come from, let's say, a corrupted data source, corrupted training data. This could lead to mass-scale crop failure. So that is where I think public good needs to intervene in regulation while keeping aside the innovation to continue. And that is what I wanted to say.
No, indeed. think about the case of alignment, as he's saying, right? We have, again, it boils down to the cost of verification, right? How much the need for verification is, and how much is the cost for that verification. If we have scenarios where we think that we'll have to intervene and verify a lot because it's a certain sensitive aspect, then we need to weigh the cost nicely. And perhaps it's not time for us to use AI unless and until it reaches that level first. Earlier I gave an example of an undergraduate student. You hire a very fresh undergraduate student to work in your firm. What exactly can you expect from them? Where would you like to deploy them without properly training them? Of course, it will be cases where you think that if a mistake is made, it's not going to be that impactful. And if I have to intervene and verify, I won't be putting that much cost and effort into it. You will never put them against a task where you think that the impact of a mistake is significant. And in order for me to properly verify and intervene, I need to invest my significant time as well. For such cases, you will train them. You will first give them experience and then deploy them. So like any other asset, any other source, any other worker, we need to consider them as our assistant and consider ourselves where it is time for us to deploy them. If we need a lot of intervention and verification, perhaps we shouldn't deploy them because that will make the cost of usage higher than the benefit. So it's all about us making the right decision of where and when to put AI. It will be very wrong for us to actually assume that AI should evolve and become so trustworthy, so safe that one day we will be able to use it for any case. I think that future will never happen. Like any other technology, it will evolve, but so will the issues with it will evolve as well. And we need to understand where it is more beneficial to use versus the time that we need to, and effort or resources we need to put to verifying it, to managing it.
Okay, thank you. So I think we will continue. Мы довольно долго уже, почти 1,5 часа.
It's been almost 1.5 hours. Various questions to do with using AI.
Проблемы.
We are discussing various risks and issues which occur, but if we cite your specific examples, please raise your hands if you have ever used tools of generative AI. Great.
Could you share your experience? So how do you use generative AI in your job, in your everyday life? So probably it's not only ChatGPT just for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adil, you can start.
So I will link my answer to the answer to this question. I will try to link it with what I said in the previous answer as well. So I am a researcher and a teacher, right? I do a lot of things which are, some of them are simple, some of them are very sensitive, and I need to be very careful in how I execute those tasks. So think of an example of an assignment. Now, when I'm drafting or crafting an assignment, I need to consider various views. For example, how a certain group of students will view it when this particular document will go to them. How my TA, tutor, who will help me grade it, how they will view it when it will go to them. So it is very difficult for me to arrange those views as I'm designing and drafting that assignment. But what I can do is I can use AI, because now AI, generative AI, has the potential to play such roles. So I can initiate an instance with GPT, asking it to be a TA and look at this draft and try to criticize it, try to review it. Then I can again initiate another instance, now this time giving it a role of a student, right? So this way I'm collecting feedback. It is the safe usage of AI because I'm collecting feedback, and that feedback will then help me make the decision. Ultimately, I'm the one making the decision. So I very often use AI to understand what students will view my work as and what TAs will view my work as. Now let's change the scenario. Now let's say a student has submitted the assignment. Can I use AI to grade it? Of course, I can upload this assignment and ask the ChatGPT or any other appropriate tool to grade it. But there's a lot of risk here now. Why? Because first I need to anonymize the assignment. According to regulations, it's not allowed to share personal data. For example, a student has submitted the assignment. I did not take their permission from them to share their information on, on internet or to AI. Second thing is, in order for me to teach this entity grade, I need to grade a few works myself and then try to show examples of that. Then what happens? That they grade it and I keep on verifying it. All of that is too much work for me because I need to constantly verify so that nothing goes wrong. Now, wouldn't it be better if I did it just by myself? So that is what I'm saying. Every one of us in our daily jobs, tasks, even housewives at home, we do a lot of things. And all those things, this AI, LLM can help them with. We need to decide ourselves where it is in fact useful and makes sense to use it and where it isn't. So in my case, I gave an example of two things where I can use, but I'll prefer to use it only for drafting, not for grading.
Thank you, Adil. Good experience. Ajit, what's for you? What's your experience?
Yeah, actually, I've been using a lot of generative AI for augmenting data, especially for research purposes. And the last, I would say, almost 9 months, I think without ChatGPT or these kind of platforms, I cannot live my normal life in the university. Being a vice chancellor, we have 7 schools, and some of these deans come to me and tell, "Sir, please come and inaugurate and tell a few words." And sometimes there is law, intellectual rights, constitutional rights, and you talk for 10 minutes. And imagine you getting 5 minutes to get to the stage addressing 300, 400 people. Sometimes you have Supreme Court justices, various VIPs on the platform. So I think Transformers has, I would say, saved my life to some extent, making professional life a lot easier. At the same time, research. I think over the last 5, 6 years, we have been doing various methodologies for augmenting data. Especially I do a lot of work on healthcare research where sometimes we don't have enough images, enough data for various things. So we use various transformers to generate data, to supplement and get sort of like, I would say, near good results. So personally, I use it a lot and encourage a lot, but there are also concerns. So like there has been discussions, whether we should encourage our students to use these platforms. So my point is, we should encourage students to use it, but under certain conditions. For example, like in computer science, I've asked all the faculty to formulate plans, how we are going to teach them, or how we are going to assess various courses, especially knowing that they could be using these platforms. And last week, we launched School of AI within the university. And again, one of my mission is each of these students should be able to come up with some transformer after 4 years at BTech level. So that is my goal. So only when we set those type of goals, we can actually generate or create those type of innovations within the academic community. So personally, I use it. I encourage people using it, but we should know what is bad, what is good, and try to use it wisely.
Yeah, thank you. Bader, what's your experience here?
Yeah, thank you. Like in terms of like academia, I want to add, no, because I also tried to have the same experience as Professor Khan said as well. One of the issues then that came to my mind, because we are all aware of some of the limitations that sometimes it gives just answers that don't make any sense. And the idea is that what if I will try to grade a student, then the student also used ChatGPT to write the assignment. ChatGPT will not be able to catch mistakes that itself made these mistakes because it believes that these are right answers. this is one issue for me. Where I see that ChatGPT really helps for me is from industry side. So because I think that depends on how these models were trained. These models were trained to be more productive. I think that when trying to initialize kind of a project or whatever a task, and then I try to start with writing the code for whatever, when I just first start to write the code, then it will give me a huge push. And then when I try to just use it for some creative solutions, for some specific, then it fails. So whenever I start, like for example, I'm reading an up-to-date paper, a very nice paper, and then there are some terms that appear to the first time. I don't need to read a very long paper as well for this specific term. I can ask ChatGPT about this specific term. But for example, for writing the code for this full paper, it will fail. For also using this paper for coming with more intuitive or some more advanced approach, it will fail. So whenever I think about creative tasks, it will fail. But like in the very first beginning of any task, it will give a huge push. I think that I use it, I feel that I'm very more productive when I use it, but only when trying to write code, when trying to use it for getting some specific knowledge about specific things.
Yeah, thank you, Bader. I think probably next year we will meet here also, and I will ask you about your experience of using omni-channel version of this of the generative AI model, because nowadays we are talking all about text. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So, and we are coming to the end of our meeting, but I would like to ask only one short question for you. So, I think you are not futurists, but please try to be. And can you tell what are your expectations from generative AI and AI for next 3-5 years? So, what awaits us?
Like I said in my talk, for me, generative AI is more like a talking parrot. Still, we have to go a long way. So, even the contents, the way it is generated. When I look at the, into the right meaning, the context, and connecting the dots from various domains, not just text, but look at multimedia, for example, like music, for example, images, video. I think still we have to go a long way in terms of research, future directions. Coming to media again, if you look at, so I think so far we have some success with text, images, I would say music to some extent, but video, I think we are still far away, connecting the dots. So giving the self-attention mechanism to group of pixels and mapping to the next slide, connecting the dots, I think it's a long way to go. We are still at its infancy. Because I think that attention mechanism for pixels, understanding the context and mapping that to the future with a storytelling, I think that is a huge challenge for generative AI, and I think not for generative AI, I think for the whole AI community as well. A lot of applications, I guess, these success would again lead to various new generation applications. Because with these small things, we are able to do wonders. Imagine if we have some more pathways. I think it is unimaginable. Next 5-10 years, it is going to be unimaginable. That is my viewpoint.
Thank you, Adil.
Thank you. I'm always an optimistic person. So for me, one thing that I can clearly see will change is the way we interface with computers. So we were doing it with touchscreen. Now I think it's going to be language. It will change the way we talked, we interacted. So that would definitely change altogether. Second thing is, of course, when it comes to content creation, as we all know that it has some severe limitations. And what it is good at is creating sketches, and then human can then make those sketches better. This is exactly what Badr was saying, is that when I'm brainstorming and I'm trying to understand what should be my first step, and I want to see what kind of different first steps I can take, then various sketches can be produced for me. So I think ChatGPT, or not just GPT, language models and generative AI is good at that, and it will get even better at that. And if we could somehow make the interface between generative AI and human easier, where they can interact in a continuous loop, then content creation will become much better. Because of course, it has to be hybrid. It can't be left to just, generative AI alone. So that is, I guess, will become even better, because if you look at the latest research, think about the speed through which the tokens can be generated. There are in fact companies whose main only business is to improve the speed of token generation. And by increasing this speed, what these language models or generative AI can do is that it can learn itself on how to create even better contents. It is going to become better and better at this. So I definitely have a huge and lots of hope for it. What I really think that we should do is we should see, or let people see, or businesses see, that in all kinds of ways that this technology can help them. Because if at the end of the day, a business is using this technology only for something, right, and that too is not that meaningful, then the cost of using is high. We need to bring that cost down. And for that, we need to bridge this gap between businesses and AI, generative AI, or AI to be in general. For that, we need to make this bridge, we need to somehow connect them, make them see the potential ways through this can help. Once that benefit exceeds the cost, all other things will go into the place nicely. So I have a lot of hope, and I am pretty sure that with this interest that we are seeing into this technology from business, from academia, from governments, I believe that eventually we will be able to reap the true benefit of it very soon.
Yeah, thank you. Me too.
Yeah.
I'm also very optimistic. But there.
Yeah, thank you. So since we are talking about the future, it means that we can make mistakes. So that's nice, because like I'm saying, it might be wrong. What I see is that mainly when we talk about like generative models, the first thing that comes to our mind is LLM, so large language models, because of the very big success of ChatGPT. But what I think is that language itself is an abstract way of producing knowledge. And it means that it loses a lot of the knowledge that we as a human beings know about our world, or the way that we produce our world in our mind. So we have some kind of concepts that we know about the world, and it's not in terms of language. And unless we try to make more research in multimodal models, it means that we will not be able to produce models that align with the human beings. As we will continue going with only language, it means that these models will keep to be restricted. Whatever we try to make the model more deep, whatever we try to produce more and more data, these models will keep to be restricted. The idea is to make these models see the world in the same way, that maybe not to use touch, for example, because this is something that is maybe like these models will not need, but I think that vision will be very important. I come from computer vision background, maybe I will be a little bit biased, but I think that for any model, it will be very important not only to see the world by language, because language itself was like initiated by human beings to abstract knowledge, and I think that the way that we see the world is more general than only language. That's why we need somehow to train these models, not only by tricks that are used by ChatGPT, but really to train the models with not only language, but other also types of
modalities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all, for you. Probably there are some questions from the audience. Нет? Окей. Тогда мы завершаем, коллеги, еще раз.
So we're about to wrap up. Dear colleagues, I'd like you to please note Today, we saw a view on AI development from the panel participants from 4 countries: India, Russia, Syria. Everything is fast developing. It's impossible without communications. And that's how we can complement each other. So we had participants from Pakistan, India, and Syria, and Russia. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.